Just enjoying my ride here. I see that.
Ready yourself. I will be waiting.
Do you want a really fast blaster that can still kill the bosses and get you void stones, but you just really want to blast this? And this league, Affliction, looks perfect for that. Well, then this collab I'm doing with Havoc 616 is absolutely for you. This is a build that Havoc is like min-maxed, done loads of practice runs with, and it is an absolute blaster. And while Lightning Arrow isn't like the craziest single target, he's gotten all the 4 void stones, SSF, etc. So you absolutely can do all the bosses. Now obviously if you want to have a dedicated boss farmer and do Ubers and things like that, this is not the build for you. And if you aren't super familiar with crafting, an attack-based build is always a scary league starter. So keep that in mind as some of the downsides of this build. However, look at that clear speed, look at that crunch. Oh my god, it's amazing. So it's an amazing league starter. This is something that Havoc has played so much, so it's a very detailed guide, and we're going to go into that here in a second, but an absolutely wonderful build. And first, let's hear a little bit from Havoc about how the build plays.
How do you play Lightning Arrow Deadeye? Step 1, don't get hit. Step 2, kill mobs fast. Congrats, you're now a professional bow player. Memes aside, the gameplay loop is very simple. Right click Lightning Arrow, cast the occasional Blink Arrow Flame Dash combo. Pick up loot, and get rich. Easy. The reason it's so simple is because we can automate extra bow skills with Manaforged Arrow support, and make use of projectile mechanics such as Pierce and returning projectiles to clear multiple screens at once. And the best part, bows can level and progress incredibly fast to all 4 void stones in a pure SSF manner, and if you use trade, it'll just go that much faster. Of course, it's worth emphasizing that the don't get hit playstyle isn't for everyone. You'll need great positioning and movement, unless you want to use 6 portals as your primary defensive layer. With all that being said, this is a great software trade or SSF league starter, and it's what I'll be playing on launch.
Now, a different thing from the rest of my guides, this is not really a hardcore viable build. You absolutely can try, but you might end up dying, and that could be tragic. So this is a different build because it is primarily aimed at softcore and absolutely blasting. So hardcore players, we do have a lot of different build guides for you. If these builds help you have a great league start for Affliction, please consider subscribing. It does help the channel massively, and thank you so much. Here is what you're going to be leveling with. So early on, you're starting with Galvanic Arrow. You can throw in a Shrapnel Ballista. At level 8, you get Manaforged Arrows, Burning Arrow. The way this works, if you're not familiar with Manaforged Arrows, is as long as you're spending mana, it'll basically be auto casting whatever's like with burning or with Manaforged Arrows now and again. So as long as you have at least a mana cost of 1, it will eventually be doing that. Just want to say, if you're using Life Tap, Eldritch Battery, or have a 0 mana cost, Manaforged Arrow never works. So this is Path of Building, and as per normal, you can see that Havoc has put a lot of effort here into different segments so that it's very, very easy to follow along even as a new player. And again, I do like to warn, attack-based build is a little bit scarier because Lightning Arrow doesn't scale of just leveling the gem, it scales from your actual weapon. So you will need to understand a little bit about that. And we'll go over it later, but in the notes, Havoc has put so much information and answered so many frequently asked questions, etc. So there it is, a lot of hand holding. And then there's different boss trees here and stuff like that. So with a build like this, you will need to min-max a little bit more because it is primarily a mapper. It's going to be really good for like ultimatum, for blasting and things like that, and going really fast. We do get around like 3 million damage. But yeah, so we can see the different skill trees here. And here in our endgame setup, you can replace this with Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks if you find it. And you can see that returning projectiles is not enabled here. And the way this works is, for bosses, like when you're doing Exarch, etc., you won't need this for map bosses, but for like harder bosses, you put in barrage support instead of returning projectiles and use returning projectiles for maps. Everything else is pretty straightforward. We have a Manaforged Arrow setup that gives us Frenzy Charges, Cooling Strike, and Power Charge on critical. And Sniper's Mark, this means that it is instantly enabling your Sniper's Mark just by attacking. So it's a very streamlined build. It's so smooth. And if you've ever watched Havoc play, and you should, it's so blasty. It's amazing. And Havoc put some work here into different setups. So early on, it's super simple. You just want like a short bow. A fast attacking bow generally feels the best. You can go with both elemental damage early and physical damage. Like you just want like as much damage and attack speed early as you can. So flat damage anywhere is good. So you'll really notice things like iron rings, flat added fire, cold, or lightning on your rings and amulet, etc. Other than that, you're just going to be going for life and resists. And do remember that you can craft resists on white gear, because early on, maybe the number one thing you're going to care about, especially when we don't have a lot of jewelers, fusings, and chromes, care a lot about socket pressure. So just find the gear that has the sockets you need and craft resists on that. Here is an example of a bow that you'll be using for X-Arc, and these are pretty easy to make. You could just use a deafening wrath, etc. Here is example of like a late game gear. It's pretty simple. We're going for life, resist, crit multi. There's no like specific resist gear. You just want to make sure that you're 75% res cap and try to get chaos at least somewhere between 0 to 30. So we have corrupting blood immunity and bleed immunity here on the life flask, and we are using Arctic armor for our freeze immunity. That being said, we do still have Brine King. This is mostly for the stun immunity, and then we have the Soul of Rislatha. On the rest of the flask here, you want to get attack speed, and then on another one, you can get either reduced shock or reduced chill and crit chance on another flask. Now, it doesn't matter which flask you're getting it on, but they're generally the ones you want to go for. And just to explain a little bit more about Manaforged Arrows, when I say that you need to cost mana, that is on the actual Lightning Arrow. So the reason we have life tap on Manaforged Arrows here, the Manaforged Arrows can cost either 0 or life. The actual Lightning Arrow needs to cost at least 1 mana. You click on the notes section, you can see that Havoc has put so much work here into like different things and loads of text-based help, including like the leveling setup, lots of extra help for leveling, lots of different tree and gear notes, and as well on like how to do basic crafting. So make sure you check out the notes section. It is very, very detailed and you'll get a lot of information there. Another great thing about this build is that Havoc is going to be league starting this. First, he's going to get first level 100 on softcore trade, and then afterwards he's going to be re-rolling the build in solo self-found. So this build is viable everywhere. And good thing about that is that if you have any troubles, if you have any questions or need a little extra help, you can drop by Havoc's channel on Twitch. He's going to be streaming loads, and either himself or people in his chat will be able to help you so that you have a better experience with this build of League Start. So make sure you check him out, give him a follow, and give him a lot of love. He put a lot of effort into this guide, and it's absolutely amazing. So as long as you know what you're doing, this is going to be a great League Start for you. Either way, I hope you guys have a great start for Affliction. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.